Richard and Ben and family, it's an honor to be with you today. It was an honor to know Mary Kay. Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Dennison for having the United Methodist, St. Andrew United Methodist worship with you today. My father had a Baptist upbringing and always believed if I had to be a preacher, I ought to be a Baptist preacher. I resisted this for 25 years, and even though I do feel blessed to be here today, I want it duly noted that it took Mary Kay Ash, one of the most effective salespersons of all time, to bring me into the pulpit of a Baptist church. I wish to recognize Sandra Lahr, who has sung for 28 years at the annual seminar for Mary Kay, Inc., and I also want to recognize the Mary Kay Employee Choir. They will sing today. I express my thanks to the Moon Sisters and also to the St. Andrew Choir and the orchestra that's here today. I'm also going to talk with them after this service because this is a larger choir than we ever have on Sunday morning. And this is the middle of the day on Wednesday. It's cold, it's going to snow and sleet, and they are here. But I am talking to you. Charlotte McKinney is one of the Moon Sisters and a member of the St. Andrew Choir. And this is the reason that we, as the St. Andrew United Methodist, are here today. For 21 years, Charlotte worked and works with Richard Rogers and Mary Kay. And one day after Mary Kay's stroke, Charlotte approached Richard and said, "How about bringing the church to Mary Kay, since she was no longer physically able to attend church?" Charlotte began by calling on the Moon Sisters, and they went to Mary Kay's home and sat in her living room and sang the great hymns of the church. And over time, Charlotte called on people to share brief devotionals with Mary Kay. And before we knew it, our whole church was involved. The chancel choir, the youth choir, many of us went over and shared devotionals with Mary Kay. And this became a very important few years in our individual lives and in the life of our church. Those Sundays became a highlight for our week. For as Mary Kay taught so well, we are happiest when we are going and giving to other people. But we will never forget how much she's given back to us. Because of the stroke, she had difficulty communicating verbally. But she could speak with her eyes and with her hands, and she did. She could focus on you with her eyes in a way that made you feel like you were the only person alive when you were with her. In her presence, it was an uplifting moment, and we all felt that. Our youth choir, sang with Mary Kay one day. Before they left, Mary Kay had to grab each of those youth's hand and look them straight in the eye, including some big old senior high kids. And can you imagine that? And by the time they had left Mary Kay's home, they all had tears in their eyes, and they were asking, when can I come back and be with her again? That was the effect they had on her. My experience tells me that you get to know a person best when they're facing their most difficult moments. Mary Kay faced her moment with great dignity and class and a deep faith. Tears would run down her cheeks when we'd sing How Great Thou Art or Amazing Grace. And if she was asked if she wanted to hear more, she would quickly nod her head and say yes. Over the past few weeks, Reverend Charles Stokes went and visited with Mary Kay, and he read the Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? After reading that psalm, he placed the Bible on the bed, Mary Kay's bed, and offered a prayer. And when he looked up, Mary Kay was taking her hand and pushing the Bible back toward Charles, because she wanted to hear more of God's Word. Of course, if you know Mary Kay, you're not surprised. The depth of her faith. God's Word provided the foundation upon which she built not only her personal life, but her relationships with her family and her business. She made her first personal commitment to Jesus Christ as a young girl. Mary Kay wrote, "At the age of 7, I had my first sincere and real religious experience. Until then, I'd been going to Sunday school, and it was just a pleasant routine, like housekeeping and attending school. At that age, I asked Jesus to come into my heart and experience that warm infusion called Christian love." As Jennifer Cook, who worked for Mary Kay has worked for Mary Kay since 1974, said, Mary Kay gave her life to God, and she wanted to be used by God to make a difference in this world. And she did make a difference by changing some long-standing scripts in our society in order that this world might be a more loving and caring and God-like place in which to live and work. Mary Kay loved stories. As a matter of fact, this past Sunday, I shared one of the stories that she enjoyed. Today, I'm sharing one of my favorite stories, and I believe Mary Kay would enjoy this one too. It's about a 5th grade boy, 9 years old, named Wallace Perling, who had one of the kindest hearts you could ever imagine. Time came around in the church for the Christmas pageant, and Wallace had always had a non-speaking part as one of the shepherds in this particular pageant. But this time, he was asked to play the innkeeper. Imagine just a moment, Mary and Joseph walking up to this makeshift door in the sanctuary, representing the door to the inn. Joseph knocks. Wallace, playing the part of the innkeeper, slowly opens the door, and then Joseph pleads, "Mary is great with child, and we've been traveling a long way. We have nowhere to stay. Do you have room for us?" Wallace's heart is touched by the way Joseph said what he said and by Mary's bottom lip sticking out, and yet he had to follow his script. He said, "No, there is no room in the inn. You will have to look elsewhere." And Wallace's eyes teared up as Joseph and Mary turned around, started walking away. He slowly began closing the door, and then all of a sudden, he yanks the door open. It looks like a light bulb has gone off in his head, and he says, "I have a wonderful idea. You can come back and have my room tonight." The issue for the director of that pageant is, where do you go from there? But God was looking down on that pageant that night and smiling, because the script change represents the love and kind heart of Christ that Christ gave and God gave to Mary Kay. A light bulb came on in her life one day that she could run her life, her relationships, and her business by the golden rule, Matthew 7:12. "In everything do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Over the past 2,000 years, there have been those among us who have not only learned these God-given principles, but there are those whose very lives proclaim the message of salvation that the Lord brought us. Mary Kay Ash was one of God's most faithful messengers. She was a saint, defined as someone through whom the light of God's love would shine like the light shines through stained glass windows. Mary Kay did this by embodying the principles of the golden rule in her own life and putting God before all else, followed by her family and then her career. These foundational principles, which grew out of her deep and abiding faith, enabled her to challenge long-standing scripts that needed changing. It's crystal clear that Mary Kay was not first and foremost in the cosmetic business. But instead, she dedicated herself first of all to the business of changing lives. She changed the lives of thousands of women by providing women a company where they could have unlimited opportunity. And she did it at a time when women would quickly reach a door in companies which read men only. The new script for women in the workplace, Mary Kay found in Matthew 17:20, for instance. I tell you the truth, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. She was known to have handed out individual mustard seeds as well as mustard seed necklaces as a reminder to her Mary Kay family of the power of the Lord's teachings. Another of Mary Kay's favorite scriptures is Matthew 7. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Then her willingness to base a company on the principle of God first, family second, career third, helped to change a way of thinking in the business community. Whereas many doubted that she would ever be able to build a company with these faith principles, she was determined that she could, and she did, and she has. And she's done it with grace and integrity. As Karen Pirro, a national sales director, shared with me, Mary Kay had a way of weaving her faith into every part of her meetings. Not in an offensive way, but in a beautiful and a respectful way. Her Mary Kay the family of Mary Kay understands that when she founded Mary Kay in 1963, she took God as her partner. And she insisted that all Mary Kay events begin with prayer, and she was always quick to give God credit for her success. She says in her autobiography, I believe we found success because God has led us all the way. Mary Kay believed strongly that God would and could use Mary Kay Inc. as a tool for touching lives spiritually. She often included scripture on many of the notes she has written to you as friends and as family. Karen said that in one of the director training meetings, Mary Kay handed out marbles with the golden rule inscribed on them. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then she added, the next time you find yourself in a difficult circumstance, reach into your pocket or your purse and take out this marble, and then let it lead you to make the right choices. Because of the depth of her faith and the way that she shared it, Mary Kay has led many people to the Lord. She was proud of the fact that she led her husband Mel to the Lord after they were married. She also received a letter from a young man who was a gardener at her home. This came in the middle of the summer. He had written to thank her for the influence that she had on his life, and wanted her to know that he had received a calling into ministry, and thanked her. Dave Grant sent me a letter a couple of days ago. It was dated August the 21st of this year. It was from Bob and Faye Anderson, who are 79 and 78 years of age. They've been teaching English in China for 13 years, and they wrote, Dear Mrs. Mary Kay, they did not know her last name. Over the past weekend, when we were driving along one of the ring roads in Beijing, China, I saw a large Mary Kay sign on a building and said to our daughter, oh, look, there's a Mary Kay office. At any rate, our daughter then told me that there were about 60,000, and in parentheses, is that possible, Mary Kay representatives in China. She went on to say that because the young women who are your representatives here were impressed with your motto, God first, family second, work third, she and her friends were finding an increasing number of your young women coming to church because they wanted to know why you thought God was so important. I trust, the letter continues, that this will be an encouragement and a blessing to you to know you are being used in this remarkable way here in China with warm Christian love from my husband and me, Faye. Close with a personal word. Whereas I stand here as a person of faith, I am humbled by the depth of Mary Kay's faith and the tremendous impact she could have on people's lives, including my own. As a man, I'm humbled by her often quoted statement that is found also in her autobiography. God created the world, and he said that that's good. Then God created man, and God said, that's pretty good, but I can do better, so God created woman. I am humbled by that. As a pastor, I'm overwhelmed by the way that she could witness to the power of God's love by just looking into your eyes. And as one Mary Kay employee recently said, with that look, she could just pour belief right in you. Then I thank Mary Kay as a parent. My 10-year-old daughter, Erin, has just lost her grandmother and grandfather in the past few weeks. I've tried something Mary Kay suggested. Imagine the sign around her neck saying, "Make me feel important." It's helped us all through this difficult time. And I thank Mary Kay for that. And finally, as a representative of the St. Andrew Church family, those of us who have known and loved Mary Kay will be forever grateful for her friendship and for the way she sparked within each of us a new enthusiasm for life, sharing the blessings of her life and our faith with others. So I believe if Mary Kay could be interviewed today in heaven, and maybe she is, she would probably remind us of one of her favorite biblical passages. There were so many. But this one in particular, Psalm 56. Whenever you are afraid, trust in God. And if someone asked her how she's doing, what would she say? That's it. I'm doing great. And then she might recite the words of the Apostle Paul, that neither life, nor death, nor angels, nor principalities, nor anything in all of creation will ever separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. And she'd mean it and experience it, as God's loving arms are now wrapped around Mary Kay at this moment. And if asked what now, she might say that as long as we live by the golden rule and keep God first in our lives, family second, and career third, we will know all the joy and hope and love and success that life has to offer in this world and in the next. Thanks be to God for Mary Kay's life and witness.
Today, I am not here as a leader. Today, I am here as a follower. While we mourn Mary Kay's passing, we are here to celebrate her life. Our mission is to make sure that what she taught us in her life becomes a reality on this earth. To follow by her example. She fervently believed that all that you send into the lives of others does indeed come back into your own. She felt that if you were focused on helping others, that the golden rule way of life would soon follow. She always looked upon others with an attitude of, what can I do to help you achieve the success that you so rightfully deserve? She taught us well. Those of us that know her and love her have benefited in our lives from her teachings. Belief in that beautiful potential inside every human being was the cornerstone of her belief. And this then became the cornerstone of belief for everyone that she touched. She believed everyone could have a successful life with enough encouragement and praise. I know for sure that she practiced that belief on me, just like her mother did on her, with the magical words, "You can do it." Mary Kay knew the seeds of greatness are planted within every human being. It was very important that each of us believed in ourselves. She would say, God didn't have time to make a nobody, just a somebody. And that was her true greatness. The ability to inspire, the wisdom to praise people to success, to literally bring out the greatness in everyone. I would say that her priorities in life are her belief in God, her faith in the golden rule, and her ability to see the potential of greatness within all of us. There is no doubt in our minds that this world is a better place because of Mary Kay. She fulfilled her lifelong dream and her promise to God that she would make a difference in this world. She is now being bountifully rewarded for all the good work she has done on this earth. She cared so much about all of us. She shared so much with all of us. And she went home to her Lord knowing that she has made this world a better place. God bless you, Mary Kay.
Okay, right now I need you to tell me I can do this. It's really an honor to be here. And words always seem most inadequate. But I guess we have to realize that Mary Kay has for years and years been a legend in her own time. A legendary person loved by the multitudes worldwide. And she truly became bigger in the eyes of the world than life itself. She became a personal role model for the multitudes around the world and a business icon for the business community around the world. I only wish that those multitudes could have known the personal Mary Kay, who was my friend for almost 40 years. Loyalty and truth and honor were the pillars that supported her personal life as well as her business life. Golden rule living and go-give living have always been her constant companions. Her word has always been her bond. And you could always know that a promise given is a promise kept. The first time Mary Kay and I met in January 1962, we shared recipes as we discovered a mutual love of cooking. And we shared book titles as we discovered a mutual interest in behavioral science and human motivation. And then as our friendship deepened, I discovered a very quick wit that became evident with no problem. And as we traveled together in the World Travelers Club and went to musicals and watched The King and I with Yul Brynner, and she thought he was the greatest. We even, looking at old pictures on a Sunday afternoon, I even got to see Ben and Richard in short pants. Just those girl things of sitting around on a Sunday afternoon in those earlier days. And through the years, of course, as things got busier, it was less frequent, but a very precious and special time. But I did learn that she was indeed a very funny and a very fun person to be with. Mary Kay loved the simple things in life. Greasy hamburgers and Mexican food took preference any day of the week over a gourmet meal. And I know that Nancy will never forget running all over the streets of Hong Kong at midnight after this sumptuous banquet in what was then the #1 hotel in the world. They got back up to the suite, and Mary Kay saw the double arches. And here's Nancy out looking for a hamburger. Mary Kay has always been a very humble person, but I never ever saw her so totally overwhelmed as when, after tragedy struck, Ben and Richard and Maryland gave her their support to go forward with plans for the company, saying to her, "We think you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it badly enough." When she told me about this the next day after that meeting, tears in her eyes, and she said, I guess our kids really hear more than we realize they do. That meant more to her than money or the time or the whatever, but just knowing that they had heard and they did believe, and that was so much a part of her. Her humility never wavered through the years. And going over sometimes when Mel was going in for radiation, and I would go over to drive for them to go to radiation, and she didn't like to go in my car. She wanted to go in her car, but I was supposed to drive. And she always had the tape deck all set up and music going, and the tape that played every time we were in the car was, "Why me, Lord? Why me, Lord?" She's never, ever lost that humility. My favorite memory of Mary Kay goes back to Christmas 1963. She was going to have that company Christmas party at her house, and she and I had planned to cook the dinner, and I was going to go down and help. And when I got there at 1:30, she greeted me at the door with a smudge of flour on her nose, her favorite seersucker wrapper wrapped around her favorite slides on her feet, and her wig hanging on the kitchen doorknob. So we cooked that afternoon. And I left at 5:30 to go home and get all gussied up for the party. And when I returned at 7 o'clock, I found her looking like a queen an hour and a half later. Whole house, kitchen included, absolutely in perfect order. Piles of gifts piled up there, gifts for everyone. And she was out walking Monet, her poodle, just like the ultimate lady of leisure, just like she hadn't had a thing to do all day. My first great lesson in organization that day. And I'll never, ever forget the image in my mind of Mary Kay on the Orient Express. We were all supposed to go down for dinner, and the required formal attire, of course. And Joe, my husband, and I had gotten dressed, and we're going down this little corridor toward the dining car. And as the train went around a bend, the door swung open, and here's this Mary Kay on this little stool, like this, and Dave Schroeder who was a security guard with us then, about 6'4" and probably 220, 30 pounds. Great big burly guy, bending very gently with black lace-covered buttons down the back of her jacket, buttoning it up for her. I think it was the next year Nancy started going with us. Mary Kay's always been brilliant and funny and serious, and I might add very frugal. Some of you may remember years ago you could buy a product called shoe makeup. And if she needed a special color shoe and she didn't want to go out looking for it, she'd find some old shoes in her closet she didn't really care a lot about. And remember, she used to paint them, change the color on her shoes, rather than take the time to go buy some new ones. And until she was too ill, she could and did clip coupons for those savings at the grocery store. She could keep up with the best of us on that. One day I walked in the office and she was standing at her desk with her back to the door and her stocking feet, humming and doing something. I walked around and she's clipping. And I said, Mary Kay, what in the world are you doing? She said, I am so excited. She said, I found this place in Florida where I can send coupons for certain values for stuff I don't like, and they'll send me back coupons of the same value for things I do like. That's like Richard going in and say, Mom, how come we've got 14 cans of tuna? And she said, well, it was buy one, get one free. People may find it funny, but it was that frugality that provided the money to begin what has become this great worldwide company. The pennies add up. It's very difficult today, or any time, to tell my best friend goodbye. However, when grief becomes totally overwhelming, I remember the ageless wisdom from a 3.5-year-old. When he asked a grieving daughter why she was crying in church, and she said, because that was my mommy. And he looked at her with his big blue eyes, and he said, that's just the house she used to live in. From a 3.5-year-old. We didn't know where it came from. So we grieve today for the loss of the house Mary Kay used to live in. And we will miss that in-person velvet voice. But thanks to modern technology, we can still hear the caressing words. And we'll miss her saying, you can do it, I know you can. But when we hear a tape or see a video, we can imagine those words being just for us. Because in truth, she believed that you can do it applied to everyone. We will miss the gentle smile as she talked with us. One-on-one, a gentle smile. But we can always know that it was truly meant for all people in their time. Mary Kay has always been a walking, talking textbook for lessons in love, communication, motivation, human relations, accomplishment, contributions, you name it. To watch her interacting with people, be it from a podium, or be it in a one-on-one situation, or teaching in a classroom situation, or even in a selling situation. It's always been like taking a master's class in college, just to watch her interact with people. She's never really understood that everywhere she went, she left a part of herself in the heart of everyone there. There's just little parts of her all around this world, as we had exemplified a few minutes ago. If we could hear her voice right now, she would be saying, okay, just pass it on. Pass on that little part, whatever it is. Pass it on. Everywhere I go, and every time I see some of our people from around the world, I see flashes of Mary Kay. In Australia last summer, see a consultant say something and say, it sounds just like Mary Kay. Or I would see a director move in a certain way or present something in a certain way, and I'd think, she has been watching Mary Kay. In Ireland, one of the consultants there, even in that wonderful lilting Irish brogue, came out with the words exactly as Mary Kay would say them. She gave so freely of her knowledge and of her heart and of her very being. And that wonderful, challenging, loving, caring, giving spirit will live forever, because people can always say, now if Mary Kay were here, she would want us to do it this way. And if I may, I'd like to take this moment to speak for the entire Mary Kay organization around the world. I'd just like to say thank you to Mary Kay's children, her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the whole family, the entire family, for sharing her with so many of us for so many years. I know it cannot have been easy, but please know that in so doing, you have indeed given such a great blessing to the world in such a manner that I truly don't think another mortal could have done at that given time. Some 4 years ago, I was sitting at the desk one afternoon, and something just came into my head, and I wrote it down. So I'll just share that with you, because it wraps up my heart, in my heart, of what Mary Kay was all about and is all about. Because you see, her life will shout her message on the winds of Father Time. Generations will build forever on her lessons for success defined. Her life will shout great purpose to people around the world. Her mission to be God's messenger as each day's plans unfurl. Her concept of life's highways no engineer could match, and to travel well along that way was the dream for all to catch. Her vision of the future, like a crystal pure and clear, sees the limitless potential of each one of us she holds so dear. So please remember that her life will shout her message on the winds of Father Time, and generations will build forever on her lessons for life divine.
Well, I'm extremely honored and deeply, deeply humbled to be able to stand here representing all of you. My sister national sales directors, my fellow directors, each of you precious consultants, this dedicated staff, all the employees of this company, and all the respected members of this community. Together we are here to honor our beloved Mary Kay, a great lady who has taught all of us so very, very much. Ben, Richard, children, grandchildren, extended family, our hearts are with you. They break with you. We know the great loss that you're feeling, but we know that we share in that hurt, in that ache and that emptiness that you're going through at this time. Mary Kay has been a vital part of my life for 35 years. And she is without a doubt one of the greatest women that I believe ever lived on this earth. And you know, when I think of great women, I think of women of the Bible. I think about Ruth, who was faithful and loyal in the worst of circumstances. And Mary Kay has always been faithful and loyal to her family, to her career, to you and to me in the worst of circumstances. And out of all the women that were presented to the king, it was Esther who was selected. And she was chosen because of her beauty and because of her gentle ways and her sweet nature and her godly spirit. Doesn't that describe our Mary Kay? And Priscilla in the New Testament taught others about a better way of life that was available not just for a chosen few, but for all that choose. Mary Kay taught us about a better way of life for all that choose. And I am so grateful to her for that. Lydia in the Bible was a seller of purple. She was in sales. And in Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman was a member of the 5 o'clock club, just like Mary Kay. The scripture says she got up before daylight and she worked till after dark. Talk about good work ethics. And isn't that what Mary Kay taught us? Elizabeth produced a son, John the Baptist, who would become a person of tremendous influence and who would lead others to greater heights than ever believed possible. Mary Kay's 2 sons, Ben and Richard, helped us form our roots, and Richard continues to lead us in heights that we have yet only to imagine. I truly believe, had Mary Kay lived in the biblical days, in the times that Bible was written, that all the good that she had done would have been included in that great book. And you and I will continue to tell her story, and we will keep her legend alive. And our beliefs and our behaviors will always be influenced by what she taught us. She taught us a great sense of humor. She taught us to laugh at ourselves. Do you remember the time at seminar when her skirt fell off? And she walked over and to that stage and she said, "Well, you've seen it all." You know, she was never at a loss for words. Remember when the 60-minute segment was aired and they said, "Well, Mary Kay, pink Cadillacs?" And she very quickly said, "And just what color of car does your boss give you?" She was always right on top of it. She was never too busy to take time for each and every one of us. I've seen her so many times stand and go down the assembly line, both in distribution and in manufacturing, and stop and thank each and every employee, each and every one, for a job well done. She would stand for hours in a crowd and talk to each person there. She would never rush. We had to always drag her away, or security would drag her away. There was no peons in Mary Kay's world. Everyone was important. And that praise and undying belief were just second nature to her. She taught us to believe in people until they were capable of believing in themselves. She always led by example. She never asked us to do anything that she hadn't done or that she wasn't willing to do. Do you remember when she held her 10-show week and she outsold all of us? She taught us how to be great in sales, not just selling a product, but how to sell ourselves. She taught us people skills, perseverance, tenacity, how to become a self-disciplined individual, all of which is important to be great in sales. A valuable lesson she gave us was to always honor our commitments, like she did when she showed up at Jamboree in St. Louis, just a few short days after her beloved male had passed away from cancer. You know, in all my times with her, I never wondered where she was coming from. I always knew exactly how she felt about any given subject. I've laughed hysterically with her when we'd eat hot dogs on the street corners in New York, or when we'd eat fried smelt in sunny Spain. And I've cried with her over the death of a sister director to cancer, or her beloved Gigi. I've held her hand when she lost her precious daughter, Marilyn. She held mine when I lost my breast. We've been there for each other. And I can't help but think of the story in the book of Luke, where in chapter 1, where the angel appeared to Mary and telling her, a virgin, that she was to bear a son. And Mary said, "It can't be." But the angel insisted. And she said, "Yes, you've been selected." And in verse 37, Mary says, "I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be as you have said. My soul magnifies the Lord." I believe our Mary has done the same thing. I believe her soul has magnified the Lord. And then do you remember at our 25th anniversary celebration at seminar, when she raised her hands and she said, "Thank you, Lord, for letting me see this," referring to the crowd as that arena was full. You know, God did grant her a long, full life. And for that we are so grateful. And it's hard for me to believe, as it is you, that she will no longer be here in physical presence with us. And we're going to miss her. We're going to miss her big time. But I know it's only a temporary separation. And I know we'll be back together again. And I'll get to see her face, as you will. I'll get to hold her close. And we'll laugh again. And it will be a very special time. And so our hearts are breaking as we say goodbye for now to our friend, to our mentor, to our leader that we will miss so very much. But at the same time, we are so thankful to know that she has been promoted to a better life. And God has welcomed his precious child into her own heavenly mansion that he has especially prepared just for her. And then I believe he took her to a large room. And I believe he said, "Mary Kay, this is where we kept all the gifts that were not used in the world and on earth. But yours is empty because you used all of yours. Well done, thou good and faithful servant." I imagine Jesus had her look down into this world and seeing twinkling lights piercing through the darkness. He told her that those lights are all the consultants and the directors and the national sales directors that are on this earth because you, Mary Kay, said yes to the mission that you were given. She's peaceful. And she's peaceful knowing that you and I will continue to carry her message to the whole world forever. We who have had the opportunity to have been taught by her will teach others about the spirit of Mary Kay. And you know, I think that's what we have to pass along is her spirit. No matter how big this company gets, I truly believe that we will keep those basic priorities that were so dear to her alive and well. And just think, I think the greatest, happiest thought I can think of right now is she's talking. Her voice has been restored. And she's already up there directing. I believe that with all my heart. I can see her pointing her finger, Richard. I can see her doing that. She has a new purpose, a renewed purpose. And for that, we are so thankful. And we are now soldiers in her army. And there's a big battlefield out there, my friends, of negativity and of doubt and of fear in this world that you and I need to help conquer. Did you ever think about the thought that we have been trained in a positive environment so that we can give back to this world? Esther, who I mentioned earlier, says it so well in chapter 4. Who knew that you have come to a royal position for such a time as this? I think we've all been chosen, and we've been placed in our own corners of the world to do the good that we were sent here to do. God has called us to be a part of something so special. So as we say goodbye to our precious Rose, may I remind you that the rose still grows beyond the wall. The rose near a shady wall, a rose once grew, blossomed and bloomed, watered and fed by morning dew, shedding its sweetness day and night. As it grew and blossomed, fair and tall, slowly rising to loftier height, it came to a crevice in the wall, through which there shone a beam of light. Onward it crept, with added strength, with never a thought of fear or doubt. It followed the light through the crevice's length and enfolded itself on the other side. The light, the dew, were found the same as they were before, and it lost itself in beauty's new. Fragrance more and more. Shall claim of death cause us to grieve and make our courage faint and fall? Nay. Let us faith and hope renew. That rose still grows beyond the wall, scattering fragrance far and wide, just as it did in days of yore, as it did on the other side, just as it will forevermore.
When I was 5 or 6 years old, I asked Santa Claus for 1,000,000 pennies on my Christmas list. You see, a friend of mine had a gumball machine, and it cost a penny for each one. I was just mesmerized by his machine. Well, somehow, 1,000,000 pennies showed up under the tree at my grandmother Mary Kay's house on Christmas Day. It was probably more like 200 rolls of 50 cents, but it looked like 1,000,000 to me. Do you know how much 200 rolls of pennies weighs? Well, almost enough to make the trunk of my dad's car drag on the ground. Of all the potential gifts on my Christmas list, why did she choose that one? Maybe because she knew no one else would want to go through the trouble of getting them. She had that way of wanting to make people's dreams come true. Or maybe she just thought it was funny. I don't know why, but I do know it's the only gift I remember receiving that year. And I certainly remember who it was from. Do you know the question I get most often when people find out who my grandmother is? Wow, they say, Mary Kay is your grandmother? What's that like? Well, I don't need to tell you, just meeting her is a very special moment. Her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-grandson are all very lucky to be her family. It is an extraordinary feeling of pride to have people meet you and associate you with such a great person. And I am sure everyone in our family has great memories of Mary Kay. Indeed, everyone who has spent some time with Mary Kay has a special memory, and it is very difficult for me to share any true insight into her family life. That's because grandmother treated everyone like her family. The way she loved us made us feel important. The way she acted, her words of enthusiasm, her spirit of giving, nothing was different when Mary Kay was just with us. She never let her mood turn bad, and anything but great was still an unacceptable answer to "How are you?" You see, that is part of the reason why she was so special to everyone. She loves you all just as much as she loves us, and we all love her like our own family. Everywhere you go at the Mary Kay headquarters building, you see people with pictures of Mary Kay right next to their own family. I can only imagine the same scene in the homes of hundreds of thousands of other people. Being family did have its perks. Not everyone in this room got presents from Mary Kay at Christmas, but we were all blessed with her wisdom. During her life, millions of people received the gift of Mary Kay's advice: to think like her, to act like her, to fake it until we make it, to put God first, family second, and work third. As we pass that gift along to others, the world becomes a better place, and that would make her the happiest. Which reminds me of those pennies. Just as Mary Kay's pennies were a gift to me, imagine where those pennies are now. How many people do you think have touched those Mary Kay pennies? How many lives has the gift of Mary Kay touched? And how many people feel like part of her family?
a touch in the breeze passing by. The love I once knew now has wings. It's so real, this tenderness I feel inside of me. I close my eyes and think of you. Your laughter, your love always shining through. You lifted up so many to the top of their dreams. Forever we will soar in the lift of your wings. Silver wings, you taught us to fly. Silver wings, no mountains too high. Silver wings, no valleys too wide. You're not as far as it may seem. You showed us how to believe. You said trust your heart and your dreams will always be on silver
I have a premonition that soars on silver wings. It's a dream of your accomplishment of many wondrous things. I do not know under which sky or where you'll challenge fate. I only know it will be high. I only know it will be great.
Silver wings, you taught me to fly. Silver wings, no mountains too high. Silver wings, no valleys too wide. You're not as far as it may seem. All you have to do is believe. Trust your heart and your dreams will always be.
So head for the top. I love you.
Now receive the benediction followed by the dismissal.